ये अवैध मकान है ये बुलडोज कर दिया जाएगा। और आज 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 पीछे की तरफ भी 3 है, 6, 3, 9 बुलडोजर जो है वो इस वक्त बुलडोज कर रहा है इस अवैध मकान को।
Namaste, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narasimhan, and we are going to stay on top of the story that we first highlighted here at CNN News 18. The grooming gangs in Bharat, similar to that in the United Kingdom, and are they now a pan-India operation? Uttar Pradesh being the first to crack down on such gangs. Let's go straight across to Shri Amitabh Yash, ADG Law and Order, Uttar Pradesh. He also heads the Special Task Force in Uttar Pradesh. Namaste, Amitabh ji. Thank you for your time. And we speak again in the span of 3 or 4 days, but there is more that's now come to the fore. So if you could take our viewers through the latest, where now the ATS and the aide is also getting into the operations of Changur Baba and some of his grooming activities.
We had informed the press earlier that this gentleman named Changur Baba alias Jalaluddin, who posed as Haji Pir Jalaluddin, had made a base at Uttaraula in district Balrampur. He was carrying out his conversion activities, illegal activities from that base. He had a set of agents whom he used to convert the people using different kinds of methods, which included use of money, sometimes honey traps, and also pressure generated from using the administrative machinery. So when the STF inquired about it, they found that this gang had about 40 accounts which they were operating for receiving money from abroad, mostly Middle East countries, and they had received huge sums of money, which they used not only for conversions, for also acquiring property around, property in Balrampur, Uttaraula, and also other places. A property worth around 16 crores has come to light during investigations, is in Pune. The activities of the group and their financial transactions are being monitored. The investigation is on. The kingpin has been arrested, and today he has been taken on a police custody remand for further interrogation. The interrogation is likely to yield their entire nexus, the money trail, the other places where they have built a property, and the entire roots of this organization.
Amitabh ji, we see bulldozer action in Balrampur on his property, where over 3 bighas of land, he's built a huge palace there. That's been brought down, razed to rubble. But they were operating for nearly a decade and a half. How were they able to fly under the radar and amass so much?
The audio is not very clear, but I'll try to reply from what I have understood. The property that is illegal would either be confiscated or be demolished according to the laws of the land, and that is a process that has already started. We are in the process of identifying other such properties which may be confiscated under the law.
Amitabh ji, the follow-up question was that they have been operating reportedly for at least a decade and a half, nearly 15 years. How were they able to fly under the radar and conduct such massive operations that spread pan-Bharat?
The gentleman started off by selling rings, totems around the place. He managed to acquire an aura of a Pir Baba, and he had that aura, and he was quite respected around the place, even among the majority community. But when anybody tried to oppose him in any way, he used the administrative machinery, he used the courts to lodge cases against them, and they would get pressurized. It's not that it is for the first time that a case has been lodged against this group, but somehow he managed to evade the arms of the law.
Are they using social media platforms, also encrypted platforms, to groom, to radicalize? And is there more to it than just conversion?
Of course, there's more to it than just conversions. And a person sitting abroad would not invest such huge amounts for conversion only. That area is not very far from the Nepal border, and we have learned from other sources that there have been attempts to change the demography of that area. We will go into every aspect of this racket and try to uncover the names of all those who have been converted, and some of course have come forward, those who had been pressurized, and we are hopeful that what the wrongs he could manage in the last 15 years are not do not happen again.
Is there an ulterior motive of demographic realignment, a soft method or a soft toolkit towards pan-Islam, Amitabh Yash ji?
This has not been soft at all. All kinds of means have been used by this group, and the details that are coming out are quite filthy. The means that have been employed are for a larger goal. We are hopeful that we'll be able to stop these kind of activities. We also keeping a track of other groups which are doing it. There are groups which are employing social media, and there are attempts of radicalization as well for further use for jihadi activities.
Final two questions, Amitabh Yash ji. I know you are pressed for time. One, were they targeting women of a particular caste or a denomination, religious denomination? Or did they have different rate cards?
They were targeting Hindus, that was for sure in that area. That may be because there are no Christians in that area. But there were rate cards for different castes. That is something startling. The rate card for forward caste, so-called forward caste person was something around 15 lakhs, whereas those belonging to scheduled caste fetched 8 to 9 lakhs.
My final question, are you aware of other gangs operating? Is there a possibility that this could be not just one or two, but more such operators?
There are other gangs that have come to light. We have been investigating, and in those gangs we have found evidences of far more nefarious activities. And work is underway. So when we uncover those details, we'll come back to you.
Amitabh Yash ji, thank you for your time and thank you for speaking with us here at CNN News 18.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Namaste. Let's get a move on. Now, here on the right stand, we just had the ADG Law and Order Uttar Pradesh spell out that the ulterior motive or the overall objective was far more devious and diabolical than just stopping at conversions. Now, we'll try and get you more details what the intel assessment is, but how a growing jihadi network operating out of Kerala was serving as a silent but dangerous conduit funneling radicalized Indian youth into the ranks of ISIS, Khorasan in Afghanistan has also come to the fore during an investigation by CNN News 18. Now, according to top intelligence sources, radical elements in Kerala turned the state into a key ideological processing center for ISIS recruitment, targeting vulnerable individuals, particularly economically disadvantaged Dalit minors, with promises of dignity, financial stability and a cause. So this is one part and they all seem to be connected somehow. We brought this to you here at CNN News 18 that this process is systematic. Once isolated, recruits are subjected to an intense ideological reprogramming process that lasts between 3 to 6 months. Salafi Wahhabi texts are used to frame the Hindu caste system as oppressive, and jihad is promoted as a form of liberation. Recruits are stripped of cultural identity, renamed and trained in encrypted communication, crypto transactions via Monero, and basic weapons handling also. The revelations came after 2 people were detained on charges of abducting a minor girl and forcing her to convert to Islam, and this happened in Uttar Pradesh. The incident was reported from Prayagraj. According to details, the girl belonging to the Dalit community was abducted and taken to Kerala, where she was being trained for terror activities. The UP police confirmed that Kerala-based radical groups are targeting over 50 Dalit minors annually for trafficking. Investigations linked to the recent arrests in Prayagraj have revealed similar patterns, with minors being lured through offers of education and jobs before being transported out of the country. Now, soon after this, a week later, after the Prayagraj incident that threw light on the conversion terror plot, Jalaluddin, widely known as Changur Baba, was arrested along with his close associate Neetu alias Nasreen from a hotel in Lucknow. Their movements were being tracked after uncovering what the Uttar Pradesh police and ATS described as an organized network involved in forcibly and fraudulently converting individuals from Hindu and other non-Muslim backgrounds into Islam, akin to the grooming gangs that were unearthed in the United Kingdom. So it's a similar toolkit pattern worldwide. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath sent a firm message to such people who work against the society and nation. Listen in.
अभी समाज विरोधी और राष्ट्र विरोधी कार्रवाई में लिप्त तत्वों के खिलाफ कैसे कार्रवाई हो रही है। कल बलरामपुर में आपने देखा होगा, एक जल्लाद को हम लोगों ने वहां पे भी गिरफ्तार किया है। कैसे वहां हिंदू बहन बेटियों के इज्जत के साथ खिलवाड़ करता था, पैसे में सौदेबाजी करता था, लेकिन अब ऐसे तत्वों के साथ सख्ती की जा रही है। हम समाज को भी टूटने नहीं देंगे, राष्ट्र विरोधी और समाज विरोधी तत्वों को भी चकनाचूर करके रहेंगे।
Now, bulldozers were deployed in Madhupur in Balrampur district to dismantle unauthorized structures linked to Changur Baba and his associates. The bulldozers have been work over the last 3 days, 8th, 9th and 10th of July, for them to demolish just the illegal part of this entire palace that was built over 3 bighas of land. And also commercial establishments that were operating out of that same structure. This man accused of orchestrating large-scale religious conversion racket. The bulldozers were deployed in Madhupur district to dismantle these unauthorized structures. And this drive continued until the end of day today. It's taken 3 days to demolish the wealth and what had been built, and all of it deemed illegal. How could they do it under the very nose of the law, the establishment, the administration over the last 15 years is a big, big question. Meanwhile, there's more. As this investigation moves forward, the angle of money laundering, perhaps terror financing comes to fore, and brazen violations under PMLA. The Enforcement Directorate has tightened its grip on Changur Baba and his associates, and these are documents which are exclusive to CNN News 18. This is yet another big exclusive. Our Manoj Kumar Gupta, our Security and Investigations Group Editor, getting us these details. Property worth 100 crore is on the Enforcement Directorate's target. The ED is collecting all the documents related to the property. Initial investigation revealed information about 40 accounts of Changur Baba. CNN News 18 has accessed details of those 40 accounts. All these accounts have been opened by Changur Baba in the name of 40 institutions formed on the basis of fake documents. Now, of these information, about 6 accounts being in overseas banks. And according to sources, crores of rupees came into Changur Baba's account from Gulf countries. And with this money, he bought land in Nagpur, Pune, along with property in Uttar Pradesh, whose complete details are now being extracted by the Enforcement Directorate. The ED is preparing to confiscate all these properties soon. The ATS has found some documents which show that Changur Baba has received more than 100 crore rupees from abroad that was spread across his 40 accounts and then withdrawn as cash and deposited in other accounts. This money was used for conversion and to buy properties. Investigation has revealed that Baba had bought property worth 16 crore in Lonavala in Pune. And there's more. The ED is now tightening its probe on Jalaluddin alias Changur Baba, whose name recently surfaced in this high-profile religious conversion and financial fraud case. According to ED sources, the agency is now preparing to seek Changur Baba's custody from the court to further the investigation. He is currently under the custody of the ATS. ED sources have said that the agency is currently collecting income tax returns for the last 10 years of 40 entities allegedly created and operated by Baba and his associates. These entities, according to sources, are suspected of being shell companies or fronts used for routing illegal funds. A meeting to coordinate this data gathering has already been held, and as part of financial scrutiny, ED sources confirmed that more than 100 bank accounts have been identified across these 40 entities. Account statements are now being sought from various banks, and notably the ED has also discovered 6 overseas bank accounts linked to these entities with large sums transferred from Arab nations and Gulf countries. That's what sources are revealing. Changur Baba, who allegedly operated under a spiritual front, came under the scanner after claims emerged that he was running a network promoting religious conversion via inducement. This is illegal, the methods that were being used. And it didn't stop at conversion. There was also effort to radicalize and beyond. According to recent reports, a conversion rate card was being circulated and individuals were reportedly lured with financial incentives. The ED believes these conversions were financed using foreign remittances, and sources revealed that using these foreign funds, the Baba purchased properties in UP, Pune, Nagpur and other places. The agency is now compiling a complete documentation of these deals, land deals, property deals, with a view to seize them. The total value of properties under ED scrutiny is estimated at more than 100 crore. In addition to real estate, ED sources disclosed that Baba spent lakhs on foreign-bred horses, dogs, which are also part of this probe now. These luxury purchases are suspected to have been made using laundered money. More startling revelations in the ED note against Changur Baba. Now, he induced several into religious conversion, accumulated wealth through deceitful means, constructed properties without approvals, had amassed assets exceeding 100 crore. The ECIR recorded and a probe is on under PMLA Act of 2002. Funds worth 100 crore in 40 bank accounts. And in what intelligence officials describe as a long-term, non-violent campaign of demographic manipulation, this is what we are getting to understand. This is an Islamist syndicates that are based in India and abroad who've been systematically targeting Hindu girls through digital platforms like Telegram, Tinder, and also this entire method of zakat, converting India religious to indoctrination. They are park-based, foreign funding to orchestrate religious conversions, and according to top intel sources, the strategy forms part of a 40-year-old ideological plan devised by Pak-based Barelvi and Deobandi networks with the objective of reshaping Bharat's demographic balance. Just hold on there, wait. According to top intelligence sources, this non-violent jihad, sometimes referred to as soft jihad, is justified by the circulation of ideological texts such as Ghazwa-e-Hind and involves psychological and spiritual manipulation rather than overt terrorism or coercion. Telegram metadata has analyzed by agencies as we move further, shows time zone patterns linked to the UAE and Qatar, indicating involvement of foreign handlers directing operations from the Gulf. Young Hindu girls, particularly those between the ages of 15 and 24, are the primary targets of this operation. Intelligence sources say these girls, often ambitious from lower middle class backgrounds, are approached with false promises of love, career, support or marriage, largely through social media dating apps. They are soft targets who are vulnerable to emotional manipulation, a senior official revealed. Once contact is established, the process begins with religious grooming via videos. Many of these which forward lectures of Anwar al-Awlaki and Zakir Naik, promoting the idea of Islam as superior and inevitable. Over time, they build emotional dependence followed by religious guilt and finally isolation from their families, top intelligence sources said. And within 6 to 12 months, converts are allegedly turned into recruiters or liaisons, helping expand the network further. This cycle, sources state, is replicated across Tier 2, Tier 3 cities in UP, Madhya Pradesh and Bihar. The Agra Dargah Syndicate, meanwhile, used a Sufi shrine near Rawalpada to conduct weekly healing sessions which subtly encouraged Hindu women toward Islam, said top sources. Clerics were also caught offering jobs and marriage under fake Hindu aliases. These operations often had a Bollywood-style romance narrative meant to emotionally ensnare the targets. All of this points to grooming toolkit. Between 2018 to 2024, a total of 18.5 crore in unaccounted remittances was found to have been transferred to seminaries in Bhopal from Doha and Sharjah. Sources reveal the syndicate operates through a multi-state toolkit with a structured digital and physical network. A secret telegram group named Zayatun Council with over 2,500 members was discovered to be coordinating cross-border operations between Kerala and West Bengal. The group discussed recruitment targets, ideological content and funding logistics. The Kerala Madrasa web, as intel sources describe it, functions as a safe house and radicalization hub. There is so much more information, viewers. We'll share a little more of that. Between 2018 to 2024, the source intel agencies tracked funding inflows to seminaries, and it was for ideological training of young men. These seminaries, including Darul Uloom Tazkiya, received this said amount of 18.5 crore in unaccounted remittances, and that came from Doha and Sharjah. And they were used to train boys aged, young boys 16 to 22, to operate covertly in universities and secular campuses. In 2023, in a major crackdown, the NIA uncovered radical telegram module in Kerala during a multi-state raid. This module, as per intel reports, coordinated online grooming and conversion operations targeting Hindu girls, mostly via encrypted platforms like Telegram and Signal. 2024, authorities exposed the Zakat-funded scholarship scam in Malappuram in Kerala. These scholarships were allegedly being used to incentivize religious conversion of Hindu women under the guise of education. Intel sources said the money trail led to Gulf-linked NGOs for whose FCRA status was either dormant or under investigation. And in 2025, raids in Balrampur, Agra, Prayagraj, busting fake ID racket where Aadhaar and voter ID cards were forged in Hindu names for the purpose of facilitating marriages and conversions. Intel sources confirm these operations involved caste-based incentives to exploit socio-economic fault lines among SC/ST and OBC Hindu communities. Guests are there. There is so much detail, and as we deep dive, one realizes how big, how diabolical, how radical this thought is, this ideological continuum is, and they are waging a soft war, these grooming gangs. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, Atikur Rahman and Anila Singh with us. My namaste and Jai Hind to everybody. Thank you for your patience. We had a lot of information to share with our viewers, and I hope it's been comprehensive for them to understand the scope and the size of this entire operation and what is being planned. Atikur Rahman, your thoughts?
Anand, this is a matter of deep introspection rather than a debate, because I am not going to contest any of the claims you are making on this program. This is diabolical, this is dangerous, and as far as my reading of Islam goes, Allah forbids forced and lewd conversions. I cannot compel anybody to accept Islam for money, for other things, rather than if really a adult person is into understanding my religion, I will convey the message. That's all. But luring, putting money into it, having foreign funding, or having any kind of dubious means to convert is not at all my cup of tea, or I think any of the Muslims in India will be having any chance given to anybody to do this dubious game. So this is not a matter of contest. I will only say just one thing, that in the presence of a mighty Modi government and a mighty UP government under Yogi Adityanath, in the presence of RSS and BHP, which claim to be a very far-reached organization with, crores and crores of rupees at their hand, how a minority community person like this particular dubious man can have such, tentacles in the presence of law, and not 1-2 years. You said 15 years he is operating.
Yes.
This is alarming, Anand. This is alarming. And I will not contest this particular case.
Well, Anila Singh and Dr. Ranganathan, financial transfers peaked after Ram Mandir Bhumi Pujan in 2020 and again post the hijab protests in Karnataka in 2020. So there has been a sudden surge in these transactions post 2020, and was that an inflection point where somebody realized that this entire agenda has to be accelerated, Anila Singh? And it's happened, like Atikur Rahman is saying, right under the very nose of the operation of the authorities and administration.
My Ram to all. And Ghazwa Hind is a reality, and nobody can deny that. Even Mr. Atikur Rahman cannot deny that, because any true Muslim, he will love seeing Bharat converted into an Islamic state. And they keep on working on this agenda. And if I talk about these fraudulent religious conversions, these are not shocking because it is under the conspiracy. And if I talk about our constitution allows anybody willfully, if somebody wants to convert, they can go ahead, they can do so. But if I talk about my state, Uttar Pradesh, a very strong act, it came in 2021 about the religious conversions. That if somebody by illicit means, fraudulent means, or by luring somebody, they get someone converted, then strict law is against it. So just to play the safer side, there is a law that before conversion, 60 days before the conversion, you have to report it. After you get converted, 60 days after that, you have to report again. If somebody is not doing so, and this means that that person is under the influence of someone who doesn't want that the reality should come out. But unfortunately, I will say that in our country, if we leave Bharatiya Janata Party aside, all other political parties, they are here to do the appeasement politics. Uttar Pradesh has also suffered from it. We have one humongous population living in our state, almost 25 crores. And when we came in power in 2017, it was infested by such people who were running this gang, mafias, dons, criminals. So the cleaning procedure is on. Like people keep on saying, "Arey aap kya kar rahe the? 2017 में सरकार आ गई थी, आपकी नाक के नीचे इतनी illegal building बन गई, क्या? What the administration was doing? You all were sleeping?" No, sir, we were not sleeping at all. The thing is, every day, work is going on. But when something gets highlighted, then media also covers it. And then definitely, if I talk about the Shasan Prashasan, they both get activated and everything comes out in limelight. This is Yogi's government in Uttar Pradesh and we are not going to tolerate that. And earlier we have seen that how senior bureaucrats, they were running this gang. We know it very well. This came into media light as well, that such conversion thing was being led by an IAS officer. And who was that IAS officer? He was Ladla of Akhilesh Yadav's government. So the political parties who pampered such people, and we do not, action is there.
I think, it is, yes, you may say, look at the past and say a lot of people allowed it, but it's been 10 years, nearly 10 years since you're in government. First 2-3 years, you say you took time to get it underway, Anila Singh, but this is 2025 and you still haven't cracked down on everybody else. This is one person in Balrampur who's doing this. There'll be so many other entities because Uttar Pradesh is a vast state. And interestingly, 300 girls from Hindu, SC, ST and OBC backgrounds across UP and MP were reportedly trafficked into these marriages. And this is only this gang. And they were later shifted to religious seminaries in Kerala or Hyderabad for full conversion. Kerala Madrasa Web functioned as a safe house and radicalization network. And there they were given new IDs and trained in Dawa-based digital propaganda. You see, there is a plan and a toolkit which is so organized and diabolical. If you read the grooming gangs report of the UK, it is a very, very similar modus. Dr. Ranganathan.
Good evening, Anand. I think I have to say this, that your primer has comprehensively scared the wits out of me. What else is there left to say? I mean, you asked what the ulterior motive is. Well, the ulterior motive is, as Dr. Ambedkar said a century ago, to convert Darul Harb into Darul Islam. And my good friend Atikur Rahman Sahab, whom I respect, who's an Islamic scholar and who's very moderate in his views, he condemned whatever you said very rightly, and I applaud that. But then he said something which I'm sorry to say is not immersed in facts. When he said that Allah does not ask for inducement for conversion, does not believe in forced conversion. Well, here is what Allah said verbatim: fight against those who do not believe in Allah and who do not adopt Islam. Fight them until they give the jizya while they are humble 929. Those who disbelieve in our verses, we will drive them into a fire 456. Do not take disbelievers as friend unless they convert, and kill them if they refuse 489. So, Anand, I don't want to get into that too, Meme, but the fact of the matter is we are living in an age of wokeism, victimhood, selectivity and political correctness. And I really don't know if we are allowed to tell the truth anymore. I really don't. Away from Britain, we've seen the very same perfidy being played out in India. Remember the horrendous Ajmer grooming case that was hushed up? Remember the cases of love jihad that continue to be hushed up, to be called a figment of one's imagination by journalists and opposition? Love jihad is a reality, and this is the true face of it. Let me be very clear. Impersonating someone else's religion for the purposes of entrapping a woman, or coercing her to change her religion for the purposes of marriage or for living out peaceful married life are criminal offenses. For the leftists and the logically challenged, more often one and the same thing, this means do not justify the end, where the end is an interfaith marriage, which by itself is a wonderful thing. Now you can bunch these three offenses under any phrase: love jihad, grooming jihad, it doesn't matter. What matters is, do these offenses happen? The answer is an emphatic yes, by the hundreds and with alarming regularity. Swati Goel Sharma has been meticulously collating all these instances. When it suits these Islamists, even one incident merits an outrage, and here it suits them to ignore the hell a Hindu or a Christian woman goes through, like the recent chilling report from Kheri, where Muhammad Navid duped a Dalit woman into a relationship by impersonating as a Hindu. 3 months into her pregnancy, Anand, he began forcing her to convert to Islam. When she refused, he, along with his friend Farhan, raped and poisoned her. But there was no outrage. Oh, but wait, while Jam-Meme is unconditional, Jab-Him is conditional upon the perpetrator not being a meme. And when Hindus warn their children to be wary, they are called Islamophone. Issue is, no Muslim dare condemn what he has been ordered. Quote, do not marry your women to polytheist men unless they believe in Islam. A Muslim slave is better than a polytheist man, even though he may attract you to 221. Not without reason did Dr. Ambedkar said, quote, the Hindus are right when they say that it is not possible to establish social contact between Hindus and Muslims, because such contact can only mean contact between women from one side and men from the other. In any case, Anand, why blame BJP when it was originally the Kerala High Court that ordered the government to, quote, frame laws against love jihad? Go outrage against the court. Go outrage against Mahatma Gandhi, who said, and I quote, if I had the power to legislate, I would stop all proselytizing. Go outrage against Ambedkar, who said Dalits should not convert to Islam as it will denationalize them and danger of Muslim domination becomes clear. Look, the fact of the matter is, this is a reality. It is an intractable situation. And just 10 seconds to my good friend Anilaji. When she says every other party is doing it except BJP, I am sorry. Facts do not corroborate that. BJP is not doing it overtly or to the extent that every other party is doing, but BJP is also neck deep in appeasement. I can give you dozens of examples. Do you know in the same Uttar Pradesh, the government is running madrasas? Do you know the government is funding minority institutions, Muslim institutions? Do you know the government is paying salaries to imams, monthly salaries to imam? Is that not appeasement? Do you know that the government is not controlling mosques but controlling temples? Do you know that the government is not obligating Muslim-run schools to have 25% reservation but Hindu-run schools? So there is appeasement happening right under BJP's nose. Just that BJP is not as overtly and as in your face as the other parties.
Right. See, you have made a lot of points and you have quoted the scriptures, etc. So, but the other fact is, let's not forget that Islam also evolved and grew over 200 years. The politicization, weaponization of Islam for political furtherance was an interpretation, and many would say there are also across the world moderates and also extremists across all faiths which are there. But your point against what is being done, Atikur Rahmanji, coming to you in a bit. The fact is, if there is somebody who can falsify their identity and lure and entrap somebody, and they are targeting people from impoverished places, economics is the biggest one for biggest lure for conversion, be it the Judo-Christian lot or the Islamist lot. This is what the biggest inducement is. And the other one is that they are made to feel less proud about their own heritage, their own culture, their own background. They're looked down upon within their own system, and they're de-linked from their origins. When a log of wood floating in the river is very easily maneuverable compared to a banyan tree on the banks of it. So that and the difference is roots. Anila Singh. And the last 10-12 years, not much has been done. under the BJP who claims to be a Hindutva party and Bharat and culture. There is a lot of talk. Walking it is not happening on ground. Otherwise, these conversions shouldn't happen.
Now, first of all, I would like to answer my good friend Anand Raghunathan ji here. He said that BJP is not doing anything. BJP is allowing madrasa to run here. Actually, this comes under the legal framework. This right is being given to the minority demographics living in our country by the Constitution, by Article 30. All right. So government funding is legal and is provided under constitutional and educational framework. So we cannot say that like any government, whether Bharatiya Janata Party government or any other government can stop it. No, for that we have to change the constitution.
No, the interpretation of Article 30 should be for all walks of life, because the right to education is a fundamental right, not based on religion, but based on the fact that you're a citizen of Bharat. So under Article 30, even Hindu institutions should be patronized. That is not done. So extend the cover to everybody. Right to education should not be applicable only to Hindu institutions. They should be applicable to all institutions of religious denomination or otherwise. That's what Dr. Ranganathan is making.
No. Listen to me, please. It's religious and linguistic minorities the right to establish and administer educational institutions. The government can provide aid without interference in religious instructions. And point two, like government schemes, then there are several central and state level schemes which support such madrasas. If I talk about my Uttar Pradesh, several hundreds of, rather thousands of illegal madrasas are shut down, which were earlier being run by the Samajwadi Party and the BSP government, so and so forth. So
no, I think we've just had a video. Yeah, she's back. Anila ji, you're back. Okay, keep education aside. I'm just saying, if somebody is convinced of their faith, their roots, their cultural moorings and where they come from, will they be lured by inducement? Will they be swept away? Will they be stuck? The other part is, if somebody is committing a fraud with their identity, what is the punishment that you're giving to such people? How is it that part is the devious part, and Atikur Rahman, that's where Muslim boys or people who are falsifying their religious background to ensnare women should also be pulled up.
Can I add one statement on what you said right now? Just one statement, please.
Yes, Anila ji.
You're absolutely correct, but this is the basic difference in between the religions. If I talk about Sanatan is not governed by one book. These religions are, whether we talk about the Islam or the Christianity, they are being governed by one book. So,
but there are more than 150 different firqas, 72 officially recognized in Islam, and more than 22,000 unofficially across the world in terms of Christian sects. They may have one book, etc. They have different ways of approaching God. Same way, similar to how it is there in Hindutva or in Sanatan Pratha. But what I am trying to say is, there is a certain conviction and understanding of where their way of life, way of belief is. Is that there here? If somebody was convinced and had been cultured and brought up properly and taught about their culture and their moorings and their roots were strong, would they be? If they were not ostracized within their own community, would they have to look outside and beyond their community? These are frank, honest questions that society has to address. The other thing, Atikur Rahman, is falsifying identity itself shows there is a devious intent. You try and first portray yourself as a Hindu, snare a Hindu girl and then tell her to convert to Islam because you say I am a Muslim. Or vice versa. You try and, in Kerala, the Kerala Christian Forum has said, Muslim men were trying to portray themselves as Christian boys, ensnaring Christian girls and then forcing them to convert and then force them to be radicalized and sent off to Syria. So these are things which show that there is a devious intent. It's not about cultural homogeneity.
Anand, it's been more than 30 years that I have been into research of all these Ghazwa-e-Hind, Darul Harab and Darul Aman, and the questions raised by my good friend Dr. Anand. And all these are answered by my mentor, Dr. Rafiq Zakaria, when I was his research assistant in a book called The Widening Divide and Insight into Hindu-Muslim Relations. There were series of, arguments by Arun Shuri Saab and Dr. Rafiq Zakaria, wherein Dr. Zakaria used to prove that what you are mentioning about these Darul Harab and these concepts of Ghazwa-e-Hind are not Islamic. They are dubious. They should be countered. And people like Dr. Zakaria fought against these concepts.
Sir, I'm running out of time on this conversation. Very fair point made, sir. I just feel more moderates should stand up and say, remove the word kufr from the lexicon. Don't allow it for anybody to preach this from the sitting on the mimbars and inside these mosques and madrasas. Remove this word from the lexicon in Bharat. Can we start from there and then move to all these other concepts which are being preached? And whoever is doing this inside these madrasas, inside these mosques, they all need to be punished. They all need to be criminally punished and say they have no right to sit there. The Prophet himself never sat on the mimbar. Who are these people who are sitting and occupying the mimbar? That mimbar is the highest place inside a place of prayer that is supposed to be only for God. But that's where the corruption has begun already in terms of the practice. So this reform has to come from within the Muslim community in our country. It has to come. Otherwise, there is going to be huge amount of social strife, huge amount of divide, and it will be irreparable in the coming years.
Agreed,
I have to wind up on that note. I have to wind up. They've got big news. Dr. Ranganathan, Anila Singh, and also Atikur Rahman. Thank you. Dr. Ranganathan stays on. We've got one big news coming through. The High Court has asked the centre to decide the plea for interim relief. Before we go to the Canada story, let's go to this. Centre to decide a plea for interim relief within 1 week. The High Court has held that petitioners will have to approach central government under Section 6. The High Court has asked the centre to decide the plea for interim relief within 1 week. That's what the court has put a stay on the release of the movie Udaipur Files. And the court has applied a stay on the release of this movie, and they have also said that they will have to go. The petitioners will have to approach the central government under Section 6. The High Court has asked the centre to decide the plea for interim relief within 1 week. Okay. Now, after that update, let's quickly move on. Firing on Kapil Sharma's restaurant in Canada. K-terrorist Harjeet Singh Luddy taking responsibility. Popular comedian. Now, these are the pictures. The video has now been released. Clearly, the attackers themselves releasing this video. Clearly. Now, we just have to see whether there were people inside the restaurant when this firing has been made, when it has been fired upon this restaurant. Why this has been done, that's the big question. And this has happened late last night in Canada or during the day here in Bharat. And Harjeet Luddy has taken responsibility for this. He's again a Khalistani, a goon there. He a newly opened cafe in Surrey in British Columbia, owned by Kapil Sharma and his wife Ginny Chatrat, was attacked when in what authorities believe is a targeted strike by the Luddy gang linked to the banned Khalistani terrorist outfit Babbar Khalsa International. The cafe, named Caps Cafe, had just celebrated a soft opening, drawing attention for the elegant pink and white interior, floral accents, and a menu of artisan coffee and desserts. Now, however, celebrations turned to chaos when the eatery was vandalized late Sunday night. No injuries have been reported, but the property has suffered damages. Anand Ranganathan, Ramneek Maan with us, and Daniel Boardman, Canadian journalist, with us. My namaste to everybody. Daniel, what's the latest that you can tell our viewers here in Bharat about this attack? Who's this Luddy fellow and why? What is it? Why is it that they have decided to shoot at this new cafe, Caps Cafe?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So it's 7 a.m. here in British Columbia. So people are just waking up to this news. So in terms of Canadian sourcing and reporting on it, we're still very sparse because this did happen in the middle of the night. So it looks like and seems like the cafe was closed. This was in the dead of night. They went and shot it up. The Babbar Khalsa International, which is also a banned terrorist organization here in Canada. It was, again, founded by Twinder Parmar, the mastermind of the Air India 182 bombing, as well as the baggage jet exploded in Japan, killing 2 baggage handlers there. So we have Khalistani terrorists who have taken responsibility for this attack. They say it's because, I believe, the man who owned the cafe, the comedian, they're claiming that on his show he made a joke about how certain, Sikhs dress. He cracked a joke that they were offended by. They demanded to meet with him, and he wouldn't, I guess, meet with them because he didn't meet with random Khalistani street thugs for no apparent reason, so they shot up his restaurant and then took responsibility. This is going to be interesting. This is going to be the first major test for Mark Carney in Canada on the counterterrorism file. We actually now, I mean, this is something that usually you see in like the Middle East, where an attack happens and a group openly claims responsibility for a terrorist attack. This is happening in Canada now, where we have terrorists posting terrorist attacks on social media, claiming responsibility as well, and then this will be a test for the RCMP, the federal police force. Can they enforce the law? Is Mark Carney's Canada different than Justin Trudeau's Canada? Justin Trudeau's Canada, these people would be given a medal and a seat in Parliament. Mark Carney's Canada, we will see how this is handled.
Ramnik Man, this Ladi, who's this fellow? And why does he have the license to shoot at establishments in Surrey, or is Surrey now the new Khalistan?
British Columbia for long has been a hotbed. Surrey has been a hotbed of Khalistani terrorists. These Canadian terrorists have been at it for a while, and like the gentleman before me was referring to, that in Trudeau's Canada, as a matter of fact, mollycoddling with these terrorists and giving them space and honoring them has been a generational thing in Canada. As a matter of fact, Justin's father, Pierre Trudeau, also was, mollycoddling these Khalistani terrorists. Now, let me at the outset state this, that law and order has completely collapsed in Canada, whether it is human trafficking, drug trafficking, or whether it is weapons trafficking, or gang wars, or killings, or murders, extortion, shootings. Everything has been going on in Canada over the last 5-7 years, and it has been at the behest of these Khalistani terrorists. Now, primarily, I see extortion as a reason for this. Any pretext or anything that they would want to, bring up as a background for a reason for this, but clearly it's for extortion. One, because Kapil Sharma is a Hindu. Two, because he's a Brahmin. And three, because he's an Indian. So there are three primary reasons. And fourth, he has a lot of money to pay. So I'll give you an example of Mr. Satish. So Mr. Satish, who is the president of the largest Hindu temple in North America, Lakshmi Narayan Mandir. There was an attack on Lakshmi Narayan Mandir. There was an attack on the banquet hall that he runs at his residence also. And apparently extortion amount of $2 million was asked from him. Right. And the way this has been played out clearly says that these terrorists and these goons have been given a lot of space in Canada, and rightly so. Let's see how Mark Carney plays out. I don't see that there are any reason for any tolerance for such acts, especially when this person has owned up. He's posted a video. Now, honestly, the Canadian justice system, the RCMP is so slow and so lethargic in their way of working. They haven't been able to do much. Either it's because of the political patronage these Khalistani terrorists enjoy, these Canadian terrorists enjoy in Canada, because of WSO's influence, or because they have penetrated inside the Canadian administration, their polity, their judiciary, their police, their administration. So let's see where it goes, because this time I believe it is primarily a pretext for extortion from Kapil Sharma. Anand.
Harjeet Singh Ladi. Dr. Ranganathan, can you and me go about firing like this, and will we be enjoying this kind of leeway?
Anand, as it happens, Ramnik Paji is there, and if you remember, in one of the shows when
frankly, you and me are not built. We will not go about firing like this. So that's another point. But it's just that how is it that the rules are different for some people, and they're always bent a little extra for them. Ji, go ahead, please.
Indeed. But before I come to the nub of the issue, I just wanted to say this, that we had vowed last time, Ramnik ji and I were on your show, that every time we talk of Khalistanis, we need to remind them of two things. One, that Sikhi is the sword of Sanatan, and Maharaja Ranjit Singh, who was the emperor, the Sikh emperor, his flag, battle flag, had Chandi on displayed prominently. So, there is no distinction between Hindus and Sikhs. The other thing that we vowed we would tell these Khalistanis is that even though Punjab roughly the same this side and the other side of the border, why is it that the Khalistanis, the map that they proudly show has not a square inch of Pakistan, when in fact Maharaja Ranjit Singh's territory was mostly of the Punjab of Pakistan. So that itself tells you about the fact that this entire program, Khalistan program and concept, has been funded by Pakistan and is Pakistan's illegitimate child. Now let me come to this issue, because yes, thank you very much, Paji. That's what we had vowed, and true to your nature, you've displayed it. Thank you so much. Look, the fact of the matter is, I think Daniel said it very succinctly, that Trudeau, all these things were going on. All these things have now started under Mark. It remains to be seen whether they would be tolerated. But I want to add a little bit about what Ramneek Paji said. A lot of these things are happening, and it's not a question of whether you or I can brandish these weapons and fire in the air or whatnot. The question is, the judiciary and the executive in Canada has been slowly but surely over decades infiltrated by the Khalistani elements. We saw that during one of the riots, when at their temple there was an attack. The police officer was actually a Khalistani. So it is no longer a question of whether the police is being soft or the judiciary is not acting. This is the next stage. We can't just talk about police being soft or the judiciary not. We have to seriously consider that they've been infiltrated. They will act in the favor of Khalistanis. So the situation is now fast becoming intractable, to the extent that, we've seen all. I don't need to repeat.
He's been intimidated. Daniel Bodman has borne the brunt of these kind of elements who not only they misuse, they flirt with the freedom of expression that the Constitution of Canada accords its citizens and its people, because they also use a certain level of aggression and violence. And this is not freedom of expression, Daniel, even as per the Canadian Constitution. You can have a point of view, you can be an ignoramus and think and have no understanding of history, etc. But this is brazen Gundaism. This is brazen, gangs operating there against the law.
Yeah, that's what this is. You're saying this is a problem for Canada, and it expands beyond the Khalistani file. It's all sort of interconnected. It's anarcho-tyranny, I believe, is the official term, where listen, Canada has freedom of speech for some people sometimes. For example, as Justin Trudeau said, we want to balkanize India, we want to kill the Hindu, or if you're part of a Hamas line, I support Hamas, I support Hezbollah. I've seen police watch at a Walk for Israel. I've seen men with heavily Arab accents scream at young Jewish girls, go back to Poland while slashing their throat, basically supporting the Holocaust, screaming at a 7-year-old Jewish girl in front of a police officer and do nothing. So that's the freedom of speech afforded to them. However, you get to the point where people in my line of work, the journalists, people trying to cover it, we get much more pushback from the establishment. So the guy screaming at a young Jewish girl, go back to Poland, Hitler should finish the Holocaust, I want to kill you, that's fine. Journalists saying, this person, might not be good for the social fabric, he should be deported. This is, when we get into hate speech laws. So it's the anarcho-tyranny of when things are enforced, when they're not enforced.
Well, let's hope it changes, because this is certainly not welcome. This is going to dissuade investment and people trying to do something, getting into entrepreneurship in Canada. Thank you. I've got to run, because we're way over time. Thank you very much.
Co-presented by... This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
US President Donald Trump on Wednesday announced a 50% tariff on all Brazilian products starting from August 1st. He also called the trial of former President Bolsonaro a witch hunt and an international disgrace. Now, Trump accused Brazil of undermining free elections and American free speech through secret censorship orders. He has also said that a 50% tariff on all Brazilian goods would begin August 1st. Now, this didn't sit well with Brazilian President Lula da Silva, who has lashed out at Donald Trump. This is the breaking input that we are getting for you, where we are learning that US President Donald Trump has now imposed 50% tariff on all the Brazilian products, and this will start from August 1st. I'm being joined by CNN News 18's Akansha Swaroop. Akansha, what would have prompted Donald Trump to impose a 50% tariff on Brazil?
Right. Remember, he's really been riled up by the Brazilian President Lula da Silva, and we all know that this is also being used now as a pressure tactic by the US President, who's now also referred to how his predecessor, Lula da Silva's predecessor, who's the far-right leader, Jair Bolsonaro, has been a victim of a witch hunt. Donald Trump called on Brazilian authorities to halt Bolsonaro's prosecution over an alleged coup attempt. And of course, we all know that it was Brazil that played host to the recently concluded BRICS summit, where the declaration also not just mentioned the rising tariffs, but also condemned the airstrikes on Iran. And that was a direct reference to the United States and Israel both. But most importantly, it was the Brazilian president, Ayesha, who actually condemned the US president for the tariffs when he directly hit out saying that the world does not need an emperor. So this kind of a spat that we are seeing between the Brazilian president and the US president has been in the making for quite a few days. Remember, Donald Trump has slapped 50% tariffs, and in that letter that he's addressed to the Brazilian president, he also goes on to talk about how if Brazil chooses to come up with reciprocal tariffs, which as the Brazilian president already has announced in that post that he's taken a shot on X, because he said, according to the Brazilian president, their own rule of reciprocity will kick in after these 50% tariffs being slapped by the United States. And so the US president to that has already made it amply clear that depending on whatever reciprocal tariffs Brazil slaps them with, there will be additional 50% tariffs to this. Now, remember, the Brazilian president has already highlighted that as far as the talk of trade deficit is concerned, that is false, because they already have a trade surplus of close to $450 billion with the United States. So Brazil's Lula is not mincing any words, or he's not going to be bowed down by the US president. He's taking him head on in that entire post that he's shared on X, where he's in fact gone on to condemn the US president, saying that Brazil is a sovereign country with independent institutions and they will not accept being tutored by anyone. This is, of course, to do with how President Donald Trump called upon the Brazilian judiciary to stop the witch hunt against the former Brazilian president, Jair Bolsonaro. And that's why, and with regards to tariffs, this is also what the Brazilian president has said, that the statistics from US government itself confirm a surplus of the country in the trade of goods and services with Brazil, which, as I highlighted, is over $400 billion just over the last 15 years. So in this sense, any measure to increase tariffs unilaterally will be responded by Brazil, because Brazil's law of economic reciprocity will now kick in.
All right, Akansha, thank you so much for bringing us those inputs this morning. We now move on to some reactions that we have been tracking for our viewers.
President Trump has announced a 50% tariff rate for Brazil on top of a number of new tariffs announced on a number of countries earlier through the day on Wednesday. So that is now 22 countries that have so far got those letters from White House announcing those high tariffs, 14 on Monday and another 8 on Wednesday, Brazil the last in that lot. On Brazil, the rate has been raised from the lowest of 10% to now the highest of 50%. And the reason for that earlier low tariff rate of 10% on Brazil announced on April the 2nd was that it's one of few countries with which the US has a trade surplus. And Trump has spoken long and loud against trade deficits, that he has made a reason for his tariffs policy. But with Brazil, all that has counted for nothing. And the real reason, the prime reason Trump offered, and this was that.
Good evening, you're watching Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. Ladies and gentlemen, we're all proud. As Indians, we're all and must be proud to be one of the fastest growing economies in the world. We're the fourth largest, soon to be the third largest. But what use is it if we're going to get stuck with third world infrastructure? Take a look at Gurugram, for instance. It was built as the Millennium City, which is not very old, by the way. It's just 25 or 30 years old. But the infrastructure there definitely doesn't seem to be from the 21st century. It seems to be from the 5th or 6th century. Just a couple of hours of rain, and this is what you get. People are wading through knee-deep water. Drain pipes are broken. There is waterlogging outside some of the most expensive real estate that you will see anywhere in the country. Take, for instance, Golf Course Road. Remember, it's named Golf Course Road. It is home to some of the poshest apartments anywhere in the country, and this is what you would have got in Golf Course Road last night. You wouldn't know where the road ends